Here. We are. Your county needs a little bit of work because I was ready to go.
I wasn't ready to hit the button. That's the.
Oh, all right. So exactly. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for all of your flexibility as we were working around lots of busy summer schedules to find our optimum night for meeting. If we can we have some faces of people who I think are still getting to know each other. So if we could do a quick go around the room, we can start with Deb, if you don't mind saying your Milwaukee church and where and how you partner in El Salvador.
It's our Pewaukee Church, Greater Milwaukee Synod. I'm Deb Kohler from Galilee Lutheran, and our partner is the community of Monsignor Romero.
And just a quick check, can everybody hear it on the Zoom? It's all good. Good.
I can hear.
Call it out if you can't. So thank you. Sorry.
Okay, David and Nancy, can you guys hear? Thumbs up if you can hear.
Yeah.
Oh, ask.
So
Yeah, well, the rest of us can hear. Fine.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Linda Moose, All Peoples in Milwaukee, and we are partnered with Airways and Lefe and Sonocatepec.
I'm Barbara Bell from Galilee in Pewaukee, and our church is Los Martyrs in the community of Monsignor Romero.
I'm Gretchen Haugsey from St. Matthew. We partner with Casa Esperanza, and which is a homeless shelter in San Salvador, and with Pan de Vida in Hayake.
Sarah Weimer Aparicio from Ascension Waukesha, and we partner with San Jorge in the eastern microregion.
Evan Aparicio from Ascension Waukesha, and we partner with San Jorge.
Chris Mankey from Outreach for Hope. I don't partner with anyone.
You're partner with the Synod.
I'm sorry. I'm at large. I'm at large. You got to do this when you say at large. At large.
Let's go around the screen. Tim.
So I'm Tim Muth from All Peoples in Milwaukee and Los Héroes in El Salvador, and I am currently sitting in the Antiguo Cuscatlan Department of La Libertad in El Salvador.
Cindy.
Hi, everybody. I'm associated with Atonement in Muskego, and our sister church is Espiritu de la Paz in Tepeagua.
Kendra.
Hi, I'm Kendra Stia, and I am from Lake Park Lutheran in Milwaukee, and our church partner is the Lutheran Church in Llano El Coyol in the eastern part, one of Pastor Julio's communities.
Bishop.
Paul Erickson as the bishop. I partner with everybody.
At large.
I thought there was a hand motion required. And Renee, oh, there we go. Renee.
Hi, Renee Statler from Atonement Lutheran Church in Muskego, and our sister church is Spirit of Peace in Tepeagua.
All right, I think we got everybody. All right, so it's nice that we continue to have a different combination of faces around the Zoom and the table so that there is a need to have introductions, because it's not always healthy when there's not a need for introduction. So I'm glad that that need was there. Our devotion tonight was written by Gemini on Google when I typed in toxic charity themes with some Bible verses. And so this is what Google Gemini has decided would be healthy for us to read tonight. Our scripture reading this evening comes from Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does God require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And also from Luke 22:25, Jesus said to them, the kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over them call themselves benefactors. It is wonderful to gather today, especially as we reflect on the incredible growth of our church's social action over the past 2 decades. That was Google said 2 decades. I didn't change that part for them. We see the rising tide of food banks, outreach programs, and various initiatives designed to meet the practical needs in our communities. This expansion is a testament to our heart's desire to live out the gospel, to be the hands and feet of Christ in a hurting world. Yet, as with any good intention, It's vital to pause and critically examine our impact. Robert Lupton, with 4 decades of experience in urban community activism, challenges us to look beyond the immediate act of giving and consider the long-term outcomes. He provocatively states that the compassion industry is almost universally accepted as virtuous and constructive enterprise. But what is surprising is that the outcomes are almost entirely unexamined. This is a blunt message, but one we need to hear. Are efforts truly empowering authentic change? Are we, in our sincere desire to help, inadvertently creating dependency or diminishing the very agency of those we aim to serve? Lupton's work, Toxic Charity, suggests that when we do for others what they are capable of doing for themselves, we can, with the best of intentions, disempower them. We are called to love mercy, yes, but not mercy divorced from justice. For as Micah 6:8 reminds us, the two are twinned. Mercy without justice, Lupton warns, degenerates into dependency and entitlement, preserving the power of the giver over the recipient. And this brings us to Jesus' words in Luke. He cautions against the allure of being seen as the benefactor, of lording it over those we serve. This is a call to deep humility, a recognition that genuine transformation often comes when we step back, listen, and truly empower rather than simply provide. So as we open our hearts and minds today, let us prayerfully consider not just what we are doing, but how we are doing it. Let us ask ourselves with honesty and humility if our good intentions are truly leading to lasting good, and if we are helping people to say, as Lao Tzu observed, we have done it ourselves. May God guide us in this vital reflection. Amen.
Amen.
And it looks like we have one new person who's joined us.
Okay.
Hi, Doug. We're not going to go around and introduce everyone again, but if you want to introduce yourself.
Sounds good. Sorry, late to the meeting. Trying to connect was a problem, but Doug Chesney, Ascension Lutheran.
And I'm here too. Sarah Pachesney.
Sarah.
I would like to mention now in the devotional about something that's happening tomorrow for a Salvadorian person, my brother. He is going to have this interview UCIS for his green card spouse. And before that, and thing know about it, that they were just when there was clear evidence that there is a real relationship, a family. They were just erasing, taking out the interview. Now, they are just making interview and to see the relationship, it is true. Tomorrow at 8 in the morning. I mentioned this in the devotional, calling for prayers as they are going through. We don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, we are worried about it.
Is he afraid to even go to the?
Oh yeah, he is afraid, and she is afraid as well.
His wife.
Sorry, she is afraid too. Janice.
Yeah.
Both of them.
The relationship he needs to prove is that he is actually authentically married to his wife. So.
Yes, but with the way things are going, he's afraid of something.
With the children that 20 and 16 years old. Yeah.
So he was previously approved for political asylum, but there was a weird snafu with the paperwork that's just vanished. And so he never received his green card. And the lawyer doesn't know what happened. So the lawyer has taken the case on pro bono, saying this should have never happened. I don't know why he's in this situation. He should not be in this situation. That's the worst possible time for
And the weird thing is when Jenny became a citizen, next month they find the papers and said, okay, now you are no more under political asylum. Before they spent years and years, oh no, we cannot find the paper. But when Jenny got citizen, oh yeah, we find it that
Kendra has her hand up.
Kendra?
Do you guys need anything, any letters or statements or anything?
I think they all have those ready to go, but thank you.
Okay.
If you want an email, a statement tonight, we can send it with them tomorrow.
I just want to make sure you have what you need. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Yes, please pray for tomorrow at 8 in the morning. See what happens.
For sure.
Oh,
Will you let us know if there's any snafus?
I will.
All right, so kind of a double-sided devotion there. So if you had an issue with the devotion, you can take it up with Google since they wrote that.
Take it up
first.
with Google. I'm sure you'll be able to reach them.
So minutes are attached from April. Does anyone have any comments? Anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes? Deb, make the motion. Do I have a second? Gretchen? Do you have any discussion on the minutes? All right, seeing no. If you want to bring something up later, if you didn't have a chance to look it over, feel free to let
Oh,
us
I
know.
just said I wasn't at the meeting.
There we
so
go.
I don't know.
All right, all in favor? Can I either hear an eye or a thumbs up? All right, all opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. So exciting. All right, and we have a full agenda, but I'm going to try hopefully to get through most of this stuff quickly so that most of our time is on number 9. Financial report. Pastor Chris.
I'm right up. We need to move that back farther.
You ready? Okay.
No, that's okay. I'll do it now.
I would say I can switch if you need a minute.
No, if you could switch, well, it's not gonna matter, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I'm just never quite ready, and it's like so let me get to that. So I've been working with Karen, Pastor Karen in the Synod office, and we've been going back and forth on how to do this. So you will find a new report. We essentially went back through all times and looked at all detail of all the accounts. So this goes back to 99. So this is all loaded in. You'll have a link. The link is in there. You can go and look at it. So it groups it by month. And you can see everything that has come in. And it's by the account, it's by the amounts, and by month. But then it totals for us all of the balances for each account, so we know where the balances are. And then it also shows it over here under current balance. So this current balance will always be the current balance. So that's something I think kind of helpful. One thing to note with where we're at with some of these balances, a lot of them are just because she hasn't sent the wire transfer yet. So we have some larger amounts in there that just haven't gone. So that's part of why there's balances on some of them. Although 2, we need to discuss. And one is Rutilio Grande. They have approximately, I think it's going to be 17,000 or something like that once the wire transfer goes. And I'm going to put it under this. And then one -1 will be balanced out. Karen was like, well, that's going to get balanced out when I do X, Y, Z. And okay. So there isn't a negative there because that was a question I had too. But the 2 big ones are the general fund and Rutilio Grande. Like I said, once their wire transfer goes, it'll be closer to 17,000, I believe. And I asked about why that was, and she dug into it, gave me the report, and there's some old amounts that came in that just never got sent.
Okay.
So part of that question is, do we just send it, give it to their committee and the scholarship committee and let them figure it out? And let them do what they want with it. I mean, technically it's not really our choice, right?
Right.
So that's a question. Rutilio Grande. And then the general fund. It won't be quite 37,000 as it shows here when some monies get moved around, but it's pretty close. And a lot of that is because of HEPATHA. HEPATHA has given us 34,000 that really is just still in here that hasn't been used.
In increments of like 8,000?
8 and 4 and yeah, there's a bunch of different increments, but I think it was mainly 8s.
That's what 85. So
There were a couple different ones, but it became like around 34,000. I think Paul's raising his hand. Are you raising your hand, Paul?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to juggle the computer on my lap. I thought that, well, I'm just curious to know because I have not looked over this thoroughly, but there were there were several occasions in which the gift was received from Hephatha and we decided to put it into the endowment fund. So I don't know if all of those are listed there or if these are on top of the ones that I remember having us have conversations about.
The pastoral support is considered the endowment fund, right? Is that correct?
I believe so.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We sometimes send funds directly to El Salvador for pastoral support. These funds go to the ELCA for the endowment.
Well, right. Well, for whatever reason, the money is still there. If it got decided that.
So, yeah, often we decided that we voted as a committee about the Hephatha money to send it to the endowment fund. So I don't know if that, it just forgot.
So,
But it's been a while since we've had that
At that point,
conversation.
that's true.
So it's been,
I don't.
it's been a while.
I don't know if maybe the word just never got, the communication circle didn't make its way back to the Synod
That's
treasurer.
what I want to I'd like to confirm that before we make any decisions about, this is really helpful to know, but I think we need more information before we can make any decisions.
Sure.
We need to know exactly, did we already decide to send that somewhere else and it just didn't get there? Or is this on top of that?
Well, and I kind of hesitate to ask this question, but with a new Junta Directiva, do we want to find out if that is their desire to have those funds go to the endowment fund? Because that used to be the preference of Bishop Gomez. So it feels like we should ascertain that maybe.
Well,
I'd suggest though that if we've already made a decision previously to do the funds to the endowment fund, we honor that decision. Any funds on top of that, you're exactly right, needs to begets a conversation with the Junta Directiva. Now, we did receive a proposal that sorry, I'm in my wife's hospital room here. So there's a couple of projects that they're looking at doing in El Salvador, and I can send that information. We're still getting more information about that. So they want to do some work on Resurrection Church, et cetera, and build a parish hall there for it to have events at the church and receptions at the church. So we're getting more information about that, but there could well be a use that then that comes from Bishop Guadalupe as a priority for their funding, but we're still gathering some information.
And we do have on the agenda to utilize committee funds, but it wasn't for us to make decisions tonight, but just to get our brain starting to think about things. One of the things that we had talked about is using some funds to set up a scholarship travel fund, because right now the visiting is in our covenant that visits are important, and there are financial blocks for a lot of people being able to do that. And as we're talking about how do we engage new people in the partnership, this comes from Hephatha, a church with high poverty, to honor the spirit that was given, to honor the covenant that allows for people from here right now to travel. We at Ascension have sponsors when there's families that travel. Sometimes it can be that's sometimes the only way people will travel is if their family can go, but it's also cost prohibitive. But that's a way to get more people to go.
And you do fundraisers.
And we do fundraisers as well. Yeah.
Do we have any sample? I mean, so you're talking about from our Greater Milwaukee Synod.
Yes.
To El Salvador, not bringing El Salvador.
I was going to say down the road, I think when it's more, and we can even look at that now too, but I think it'd be a two-direction. There'd be scholarships for people from here to travel, but some of that money would also be used to host, whether it's one or two people or a delegation to visit us. Not that I wanted us to make a decision on that tonight, but just for people to mull that over, as well as any other ideas you might have.
Tim has his hand up.
Make decisions. Tim.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to guess that most of us haven't had a chance to study this really detailed information, Chris, that you've that we have in the Airtable. And so, I mean, I'm sure each of us, may want to look at particular accounts that we have historical knowledge about.
Sure.
But I think sort of from here, I'd say, let's sort of table discussion of the financial report until people have a chance to dig into it.
Yeah, we just got it today. The other, yes, thank you. One other point I'll mention, I can give individuals for your church or for your whatever project or whatever, I can give you an individualized link that then you could look at, like you could just have your information. I put one quick example. So I would give you your own, I did a St. Matt's one. So it would just filter out just whatever you want. So you can keep track of that, the stuff that you really care about. So that's something I can do if anybody was interested. But otherwise, the major one is by month. I also did one by accounts, so you'd see the full history of each account. So, all right, but yeah, it's a lot. So,
I have a couple of thoughts or comments.
sure.
The first one is, I imagine you can search by like the vendor, like, who money got sent to.
Yeah.
So if at some point you wanted to run a report on the money that's been sent to the ELCA Foundation, we could track at least, those dates.
Sure.
And I would echo, I think Hephatha has typically designated their Lenten offerings. And so you'll see that 8,000 or whatever, that's sort of an annual thing for the endowment fund. And so I think we could line those up and then we can kind of take it from there. As far as any leftover funds, we've got in November, the Encuentro is coming up. And for example, I know that Pastor Evan, who's new and at All Peoples, he can't finance a trip. So, and All Peoples doesn't, we can do a fundraiser and raise a couple $100, but that might not. So I think in the past, we do have kind of that history of at the congregation level, do what we can to provide scholarships or whatever for travel for people, for setting up funding for folks to come and visit here. But synodically, we've done that too. And I think whatever mechanism we want to create for people applying
and because some people may not even know that that's an option.
Right.
And so to sort of be a little more intentional with that, like if your church doesn't have a sister parish, because I went just because there was a blurb in the newsletter that you guys sent out, and you never know who that could reach if we put a blurb out there like, hey, there's financial support. But again, just more conversation for next time. But I think it always helps when people know some of the thoughts that are out there, so you can mull it over and see whatever that pops up in your brain of other things. But we did have a chance to talk about that a little with our leadership of our treasurer, secretary, and co-chair.
Would there be any place to find, or would AI have like a sample, like a grant?
Yeah, I'm sure we can find that if that's the way we decide to go.
And part of the first question is there any money there?
Yes, that's what we got to find out.
No, yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the first thing.
Yeah. So anything else on our financial report? Do you want to make a motion to receive it? Do we have a motion to receive the report?
We don't even have to vote on that. We just
And I know, like Tim said, I think we need to dig into it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Is there anything that
is amazing?
Is there anything that could help people? I mean, I kept thinking from my perspective as a participant in these meetings for a long time, what would I want to see? And so, like I said, I can give you the individualized links if you want and things like that.
And positive is positive and negative is negative, right there.
Yeah, this makes good sense, I think.
And some of this stuff I could take away if it's the item numbers, like check numbers and things like that. If it's your stuff and you really want to check it, it's there.
I think it's nice to have that there.
But and this is the full account name. So if you were ever going to Karen and saying, I mean, she'd probably be able to find Apostles de Cristo, but you could also say 3300-04 and she'd have a much easier time finding it. So anyway, okay.
All right, thank you.
Any questions online? All right, here are none.
All right, our next is just a quick report on Synod Assembly. Our table was shared with Meru, where Deb was working the Meru table, and then next to her was Rick Frohwein, who was working the Meru Coffee Project. And it was really nice because all three of us just really worked as one unit. If I stepped away and Deb stepped away, Rick was really selling the El Salvador partnership and vice versa.
We got good at the golden tickets.
One for you, one for me.
So we were the most popular table there.
I was a bit jealous.
So
I have to tell you, that was a brilliant idea with those golden tickets.
It's going to be a whole bunch of people doing that next year.
So you go to Synod Assembly and every single group has a golden ticket for you. Now you know why. It's from El Salvador. But people were excited to know that there's a way that they could subtly promote El Salvador partnerships in their congregation and bring attention to it in a different way. We did get Edwin, if you was in communication with Pastor Christian, they've decided they would like to keep their land, the Synod land, coffee for right now. But we are still going to go forward with congregations that want to do the cacao, because there's not going to be much interest in selling Salvadoran coffee here, unfortunately.
Right.
So
yeah, they wanted just to focus on their energy, they say, and lift out that coffee. And to add another project on top of the coffee, they said that they will be a little overwhelmed. And yeah, but yes, that's what they said. For now, they cannot join to that initiative, even that they had all of the resources and the bases and the workers, because they can use the same workers that they use for coffee to use for 1 acre of cacao. But well, and in the Synod Assembly, there was a lot of people were very excited about that chocolate. They were very excited and they were looking forward. They said, right, there is but yeah, that's what's going on.
That gives an excuse to talk about the partnerships. That was it was nice. So thank you to everyone who sent photos and statements. It was nice to have that. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that was a great idea too.
So thank you to those who suggested that. We are going to propose that perhaps for our October meeting, we're looking at the second Saturday in October. Still finalizing a location for it, but perhaps doing what we're going to call like a workshop day, where there would not be any reports of minutes or things along those lines. But there's a lot of things that we've been talking about that we don't really have time to get to in these meetings. And probably half of us around this table also sit at the Meru table, or we have people, we have partnerships in both. And so if we're all working on what are our guidelines or bylaws, what are our leadership positions, how do we get people engaged in the partnership based on accompaniment? All the same things we're talking about here, they're talking about. So we thought it might be a nice idea to have some synergy and just all do it together. So we'll follow up with that. But if you want to tentatively mark the second Saturday in October.
October 11th.
October 11th, thank you. We will be following up with that. But
Do you have a location for that?
so we're thinking perhaps Ascension Waukesha, because we've offered to provide food.
Yep.
Do it there.
We're doing so we're going to do a Thrive-In grant to get food, and we were thinking about African and El Salvadoran food, and then
Salvadoran will be more authentic.
I was going to say
we've got Ellie's
bananas and
exactly.
pupusas.
we've got Ellie's stew recipe too. So, but just a question, and Chris and Bishop Paul, you may know this better, but like in Tanzania, for the Tanzania, we've got people from Sheboygan and Sheboygan Falls. We've got people from Racine, and it's like that 43 that kind of goes along the lake, but there weren't, I don't think there were any churches that participate in either one of the partnership committees. And then also we've got Oconomowoc is kind of our farthest west. So where would be, I mean, we want to kind of make it easy for everybody to get to wherever we're going.
But again, if these are things we don't need to decide
Yeah.
today, just want that on everyone's agenda. We can work out those.
We can work out the details of
We've
where.
been using Redeemer a lot.
Redeemer.
Redeemer Milwaukee. It's a beautiful new space that they renovated.
Yeah.
Stuck $5.5 million into.
Would that
I'm
be
starting to charge.
Yeah, there's Kendra. Kendra, what do you say? We should probably make a donation, shouldn't we?
I think so.
Is that about the same distance from Sheboygan to Redeemer and Racine to Redeemer? And
That's where Marquette is.
Yeah, it's right by Marquette campus.
Right, yeah.
Kendra's the board chair for the group there.
Do we get a discount?
No, we make a donation. That's what we do.
There is a better rate for Synod things than like if other people were renting it, but it is rentable space. So, and we do have rent to pay. So.
Yep, and it's plenty of parking.
Yep. All right.
Kendra, would you want to just see if that date is even available? It's a Saturday. I mean, it's a Saturday morning. I know you do the food thing that morning, don't you? Isn't that
No, we're Sunday's food. So what's the date on it? And I'll check with Alex.
11
of
October.
October. Sorry, I didn't think we were talking about now.
Next
really
week.
That'd be very aggressive planning. All right.
I mean, and actually,
sorry, I'm a little out of it.
No, it's all good.
I mean, Bishop Paul and Kendra, Tim was there too. Both the upper, which is the bigger with the kitchen, but downstairs actually is very nice too. And I bet that would probably be big enough for us. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, that's no longer available during the week, but on a Saturday that might be all right. I'll check both spaces.
Okay.
It will also depend on if we do some work dividing into the two groups at various points or into smaller groups. The upstairs, if you have 30 people downstairs, it's pretty full.
Yeah. Or upstairs, they can overflow out into the other room if needed.
Yeah.
I'll check and see what's available.
Good idea.
All right. So next is communications. Reminder that please let us know if any trips that you have coming. We're still working on exactly what we're all hoping for, but a minimum dates, itinerary, and participants. We're hoping that everyone is filling out the hold harmless. Well, the expectation is you're filling out the hold harmless agreement because Bishop wants to make sure he is not getting sued for any incidents that occur on travel. And then also events that you might be hosting, partnership events in your congregation, so we can support those, learn from each other, all of those things. The Meru committee did vote to fund the other half of the website. So that is, Deb and I spent 2.5 hours working on that this afternoon. So that will hopefully be, that's on its way. Maybe the next time we gather, it'll be done and we can show you the finished product.
Do you want to just show a
So,
trail?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because we got others.
Yeah.
We got other stuff to do tonight. But
Other fish to fry. Other
Exactly.
papooses to fry.
yes.
Fish. Yeah.
Or a red mouth fish. Those are delicious.
Tilapia.
So that's just on its way. So just kind of updates on those. And now we're going to turn the floor over to Tim, who's going to tell us about the foreign agents law.
Stop.
Okay, so the Foreign Agents Law is a law that went into effect in El Salvador on June 8th. Then there's actually a 90-day registration period. But what it is any organization in El Salvador that receives funds from outside of El Salvador must register as a foreign agent and is subject to a 30% tax on all funds coming to into El Salvador from outside of the country. That would include that includes churches, that includes non-government organizations, et cetera. The organizations can apply for an exemption from the 30% tax for if they are doing work for humanitarian purposes to assist the people of El Salvador. The scope of who can get that exemption or not get that exemption is very discretionary for the government. And the best way to describe it is you will get an exemption if the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, likes you. The main goal of the law is to shut down human rights organizations that criticize the government's human rights record, to shut down independent journalism sites that expose corruption in the government, and to have a hammer over any organization that might think of criticizing the government. So that is the law. The Salvadoran Church will need to register as a foreign agent, and it will be applying, obviously, for an exemption from the law, in order to not be subject to the 30% tax. So I had a meeting last week with Pastor Christian, head of the sister church office, talking about it. And he said there've been a lot of internal meetings, internal discussions within the church about how they will approach the government. The church has basically decided that it will shut its mouth on political topics going forward. That it will that the word incidir, meaning advocate, will not be in its description of what it does going forward. That it will not be a public voice on the mining issues and water issues. Yeah, and sort of a point that Pastor Christian made to me, couple of data points. One was Lutheran World Federation had a pending accord with the Ministry of Health that they were getting ready to sign, and the Ministry of Health backed away, saying we can't sign it with you because you Lutherans have been involved in advocacy against the president's gold mining initiative. The other point was a contact that Pastor Christian had within the Ministry of Justice and Security said to him, look, Christian, we have our files on the Lutheran Church. We have pictures of Bishop Gomez shaking hands with gang members, and of Pastor Raphael shaking hands with gang members. This is back during the first gang truce back in 2012, 2013, when the church was involved in an initiative called EPAS. And we have pictures of your pastors in protests against different aspects of Nayib Bukele's government. And Kristen, you just need to be aware that the Lutheran Church is on the radar screen of the church. And, Christians, so the church is meeting tomorrow with the Ministry of Governance of the Salvadoran government to learn more about the law, about the process for getting an exemption. So we will presumably hear more tomorrow, more after tomorrow. But as Christian said, it's going to depend on whether the Bukele government wants to punish the Lutheran Church for its past activism and criticism of the Bukele government, or whether it will be sufficient for them to watch what the church does going forward, and whether the church puts itself on the sideline going forward. Pastor Christian related that, in the church's discussions, they've decided, that what they have to center is the communities that they serve, and what would be the impact of the 30% tax, or the church being shut down by the government, because the government can shut down any quote unquote foreign agent that gets involved in activities that disturb the public order, I believe is the phrase in the law. Make no doubt about it. This is a law designed to depress dissent in the country, to repress public criticism of the government going forward. So there is more to be heard, but Pastor Christian, said, and I tend to agree, that the 30% tax would be devastating for the church, because a lot of foreign sources simply aren't going to give if 30% is going to fund the Bukele government. So that is what I learned from Pastor Christian last week.
Tim, is there a financial threshold in the bill at all of like what amount somebody needs to receive before it's problematic?
$1. And it also includes goods delivered in kind. So if, for example, a suitcase of school supplies is brought down, the recipient is supposed to declare the value of the incoming donation in kind, and then pay 30% of that into the government. It will be the financial institutions are to do the withholding. So when there's a wire transfer in, the Synod's bank would withhold 30% tax, is the way the law is structured to work, unless the Synod has an exemption on file. It sucks. Sorry. This is
that's a light term. It is.
I'm assuming this includes any medical?
Correct.
Anything, yes.
Oh.
Does it include, not that this is a workaround we plan to do, but just, I know there's been churches that have wired money directly to their pastors. Will they be tracking money wired sent to individuals, and how is that going to be? Not that for sure we would not want to put Pastor Julio or Pastor Blanca in this situation, but like I'm thinking of the church in Texas who operates without a companion synod committee to let them know these things are coming their way, and they wire directly to Julio, and I don't want Julio getting in trouble because this.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is the law certainly applies to that. Would the government catch it is a different question, with all the, literally billions of dollars in remittances that come into the country to individuals You know, the government is not going to be taking 30% from everybody who receives money from their family members in the United States, right? So would they catch it? That's a different question. But would it be putting somebody like Pastor Julio at risk? Absolutely.
I'm sure they're going to watch a threshold, like anything that comes in over 1,000 or 5,000, or whatever the threshold is.
Well, and the banks are able to set parameters. It's coming from outside of the
Sure.
country. We're going to look at everything, and that's probably what's going to happen. I'm going to guess. Just
Yeah, I mean, I heard from Pastor Julio that when he received money from New Home from Houston, the bank always hold it for like 10 days or 15 days. I mean, they will find him.
they'll find it.
Yeah, they will figure out he could be in risk.
So we don't have to apply for the exemption. They do.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it is the entity in El Salvador, and the church will make the case, as lots of churches are going to, right? Or different organizations. I mean, the Anglican Church is certainly equally, at risk. I don't know how, what it looks like for the University of Central America, the UCA. I mean, there's still a lot to play out over the next couple of months. The time to register is between now and September 8th. That's when you have to put in your registration that you are somebody who receives funds from outside of the country. If you fail to register, then there are all sorts of sanctions and other things that can be imposed.
And even if they get the exemption, so some of us who have experienced years ago hauling things to El Salvador, like medical supplies, for example, under previous governments, there have been regulations about bringing things into the country, which required completing a document, which at that time was called like a franquicia. And that required an attorney and a lot of legwork, like on both sides of the recipient and the donating organization. And I mean, we had luggage held up in customs for multiple days. We had to pay taxes 1 year. So I think no matter what the scenario is going forward, there will be some kind of control.
Yeah.
And I don't know about, carrying money.
I was just gonna,
because that'll be another possibility, I suppose, that people will come up with, right? That you send
That's
a
one of
human.
those that's hard because you're also need travel expenses.
Right. Right.
And what's acceptable and not.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And how much of a search are they going to do?
and they used to do aggressive searches. I think we've been spoiled during the Bukele regime thus far, that it's been pretty easy to bring goods and gifts. Mm-hmm.
The good news is the stores there now have everything. It's just that no one there can afford anything. So
right, which would be why maybe you'd want to bring funds. You have a delegation, and each person is carrying $1,000 for, and that's like all under the radar and not good accounting and a nightmare, right?
Right.
Tim, did I miss when this bill is going into effect?
So the law is in its implementation phase right now. So the church has to register by September 8th. I am assuming that banks aren't going to start withholding and those kinds of things won't start happening until September 8th. I think that's nobody has suggested to me that anything's being withheld or paid right now. So September 8th is kind of the key day.
Okay.
I presume the church may find out before September 8th, if they're going to get this exemption or not. If you want a little bit of good news, the fee for the tourist visa is gone. You now enter the country for free.
With $10.
Oh my God.
$10. But if you add it to the 1,000, you're in trouble.
Anyway, yeah, it's a challenge, and what I really hate most about it is, if the church needs to abandon its prophetic voice, which such a, after Medardo was such a voice of speaking truth to power during, the Civil War and everything else. And, for that to just be eliminated by an evil government is really tragic. What's next on the agenda, Sarah?
All right.
Have anything?
Well, thank you.
And we've got two people are leaving in 7 minutes.
All right.
Wonderful.
Our next thing is our hope to start working on coming up with some best practices that we can suggest to churches in their scholarship programs. I was hopeful that maybe I would get a lot of things sent to me and then I could send them out to people so that you could look at them ahead of time so that we could have already consumed it. So thank you, Renee, for sending me your report. And I also got one from Tammy. But I think maybe in the absence of other people, with us not being able to read them ahead of time and kind of know what people are doing, perhaps we can go around the room and share.
Did we give questions like the answer?
We just said, what is your current scholarship program look like?
I mean, I wonder if it'd be helpful to have
specific questions.
Specific questions, even based on what Tammy and Renee gave us. Maybe that would help us to formulate some questions.
Would people answer that any better than?
I don't know.
I was like, would that be?
Maybe
I think they might. Would they? Okay.
Accessible.
More accessible.
Yeah. Instead of 5 questions,
Okay.
so you wouldn't have to
So would this be our question? So do we want to do that today instead then, is formulate the questions we send out?
Good idea. Renee is our expert.
You need to ask if you have a scholarship, because we don't, right, Galilee? We don't.
But I think we also talked, one of the things that we said, or education. So our church does not and never intends to have a scholarship program, but we do fund backpacks and shoes in the community.
Right, and that's what we do.
One of the things that we are exploring doing is there is a school that is shares the fence with our church and was on church property. It's very entrenched. And so when we're down, it's a government school, but we're looking at when we're down there, do we partner with them since they're so enmeshed with the church and support? And that's a way, instead of doing a scholarship program, that when their teachers need something.
Maybe Bukele will be a little happy with that.
Yeah.
And we have to raise an extra 30% on it. Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
So we have a delegation leaving Sunday.
Yes.
Okay.
And school visits is on the itinerary.
Yeah.
But visitors are no longer allowed into government schools because Bukele doesn't maybe want photos or evidence of the promises have not been completed or whatever. So I think we'll see how that goes. But Pastor Santiago told us that we probably need to rethink. And so we've got, other plans, but parochial schools or, private schools, it's going to be a different scenario. And maybe locally.
And I feel that the school in San Jorge is funded by the church, but it's
in the Los Airways school, which is also very
enmeshed.
Yeah. And
it's
met
not
in the church for
years.
That's
the same thing. This one met in the church. It started as a church school.
Right.
So, I talked with Pastor Alanka yesterday about it because the principal from the school wanted to know when we are going to be there, and they wanted to make some kind of planning, and they they didn't mention about that situation.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
We're in such a rural area. I like if you want to drive down the dry riverbed on the side of the mountain, 3 hours from the capital, good luck.
Good luck. I know. Yeah. So, but know your,
That is good to know that.
reality wherever you are, right?
So I guess the first question is, do you have a scholarship program? Or support education in another way?
Do you have individual sponsorships or like individual scholars and how is
Like,
that structured?
Person to person, yeah.
Yeah. Or even individual students that are receiving scholarships, and maybe aren't matched one-on-one with sponsors. So I think how that would be structured. There's variety in how that's structured. So do individual students receive scholarships and how is that structured, I guess? Or something like that.
And to my mind, like and this is just my interpretation. Like when I think of a scholarship program versus an educational support, I view the scholarship as being that person to like, it's an individual student versus.
Because there's some churches that send, like the Salvadoran end identifies the kids. Churches send lump sum
and they determine
right. There's not a one-on-one correspondence.
Right. But
yeah.
Say who determines,
Is there a one-to-one correspondence? I think that's a clear way to put it.
Yeah.
Do you want an answer to that question, like for what we do at Atonement?
I think right now, since you were the only one who answered, and Tammy from Holy Cross, the thought was we should put more direct questions.
Okay.
Bishop, best wishes on your wife's surgery and healing. Take good care of her.
What age? What level?
What level?
How much?
Which amount?
Yeah, the budget.
Is it a per student?
Yeah.
Or is it just a general lump sum?
Does it, even if you don't pay a student, does the church give you an amount that they?
Yeah. Do they guide you?
Necessary, yeah.
Who administers the program?
Yeah.
What do the costs cover? Tuition, uniforms, transportation, supplies.
You might want to ask what grades they sponsor, any adult continuing education. I don't know if you want to know anything like that.
Do we want to ask about transparency?
What would we ask?
Like, how is it?
Make sure
How do they determine?
That's a deep question.
That is a deep question, but I'm like,
it's kind of like after you've answered all the other basic questions, it's like, do they report to you somehow?
Yeah, does all the money that we send actually get to the students?
Not anymore.
30%.
You know, 30%
plus the
disappearing.
10%
Plus
them,
10%.
so 60% gets there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if other churches collect data, but like, you know, to know like where the students are, like, I mean, if we've had a scholarship program for a long stretch, like where are they now?
Yeah.
Do you have any stories to tell of
share a story or two?
Impact stories.
Impact stories for students that receive the scholarships?
Yeah, like I know one of the St. Matt's ones, he's is he in medical college now? Or nursing or something like that? Antonio. So he's really moved up. How do we collect the funds? Is it a yearly thing? Is it a monthly thing? Is it
How often are funds sent?
How often are funds sent?
How do you raise the funds?
Sure.
How do you transfer the funds? I mean, mostly it's wire transfer, but must sometimes, most of the time.
If you do one-to-one correspondence, describe connection. I mean, you know, ways that you connect or.
Yeah, what kind of updates do you get? And
Communicate individually via social media because like, you know.
letters,
Or
group,
letters or like.
Ways that
WhatsApp.
people connect, but
Yeah.
also ways that a student is assigned to a sponsor.
Yeah.
How you decide who.
Or is it just a group? You know?
Yeah. Well, one-to-one would be.
Right.
It's gonna be sorting out of this nitty gritty typing you're doing here, but.
I know, I'm like, it might have been, I'm like, this is gonna be a much bigger task for people than what the original give us a chance.
We
Yeah.
need to like consolidate.
And will
some
it
of
be a
those.
fillable form?
I think it
Yes,
needs
sure.
to be.
Yeah, it will be.
Consolidated somewhat. Yeah, so it's not too overwhelming.
Cause there's categories and people
Yeah.
can just check no if they don't do that,
Right.
skip.
How do you communicate to the congregation about the program?
Here or there.
Here,
Here.
so that our congregations know what's going on, and then maybe new people would come along and say, "Oh, I'd do that." I'm always amazed at like what are the national programs that support kids, you know? Compassion and
Well, they got big overhead though.
Yeah.
huge
well,
overhead,
yeah.
but it's a big thing. And what maybe there's some best practices there we could borrow and maybe would help us. I even wondered about doing like a program for our out referral ministry kids, you know, and could you help with a scholarship program? And instead of sending it to Compassion, here's a kid in our community that could use some support.
And then how do we make sure? Well, and then how do we make sure the way we're implementing the program is also empowering and not like white saviory and
Yeah.
all of those
Accompaniment
things as
model.
well. Accompaniment model.
Yeah, we had the whole problem with Trinidad. I mean, that was we were giving money and I don't know if it was making it to the kids. Or
Not
just-
all that, or not all of it.
Not all of it.
Well, I think it's important to ask too if there are requirements of the kids, such as involvement in community projects, like cleanup projects, or maintaining grades, maintaining attendance. So those are some of the guidelines we have on our students to hold them accountable to receive that money.
Coming to church. I mean.
What are the challenges you've experienced? You know?
You're gonna put that in AI and condense it?
I don't even know if this might be more than AI can handle. I don't know. It'll sort it out. Yeah.
I think it'll be okay.
All right. Scholarship recipient. What are things that we should be asking?
You almost said everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you collect photos? Do you collect stories? Do you collect
Good stuff to
I
share on the
wonder, like,
website.
is there, do they work with any church leaders other than the pastor? Who do they coordinate with? I guess that's who they administer.
like you talked about the school teachers?
Right.
Does it, yeah, I mean, what does it support? Tuition,
Right.
food, uniforms, backpacks, all the school stuff.
Well, yeah, and then these questions are all, I'll maybe have like two separate, if it's a Google form with questions that's fillable, maybe two separate, if you do a scholarship program, answer these questions. If you support education in a non-scholarship. Because I think questions about then, like, if it's a not, like, how do we support? Because we support education, but we don't do a scholarship program.
I mean, it was interesting to look at the finance stuff and how much came in for scholarships. And I could separate that out actually and be like, I think the total collection that we've done is something like 900,000 or something.
Yes.
Over how long?
Every kid.
99,
nice.
something like
that.
Yeah. We,
Oh,
at Synod
sweet.
Assembly, that was my first time ever going. And anyhow, because I'm always working, but I saw the back with the list of designated funds.
Mhm.
The number one designated fund in the Synod is El Salvador in terms of the amount of money that's given, I believe.
And the second one
Number
is?
2 is Meru. So it's
Yeah.
like, we have a really big accountability to be stewards of how this money is being managed with, I mean, it's $250,000 a year that's coming through this committee alone. And then $250,000 going through Meru. And so we really need to make sure that we're being really intentional and mindful with how this money is. That was a little overwhelming to see that. I'm like, oh, this is a really big responsibility because this is, I know at our church, like the people who give are not the super wealthy. We just have a lot of people who give what they can. Yeah, like Beth, exactly. There's a lot of Beths at our church, but not all of them are as well known as Beth with her.
Now for El
Very
Salvador, we're
special
gonna have to raise 30% more.
Yeah.
And there's already a 10% tithe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
that's 40%.
Well,
So
10% is Tanzania too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
So I will attempt again to send these out and maybe that'll give us a little more guideline and how do we develop those best practices. I guess one thing, I'll be brutally honest, one of the things that I'm trying to wrap my brain around is there's a community that we have visited the last couple times we've been in El Salvador that thinks their sister parish here has neglected them and has abandoned them. And they think they are sending money there, but no one from that church is interested in visiting. And so how
We keep alive.
how do we keep that alive and how do we make sure that community knows that there's scholarship money coming? Because it's not known in the community that
So
money's
say,
being sent.
so there's a partnership
Here that sends money for a scholarship program in El Salvador.
Okay.
But just
And
the
do they have a partnership covenant signed?
Yes.
Okay.
But things have happened in a lot of churches.
Yep,
And so
yep.
there's no one who is interested in traveling there for the foreseeable future in perpetuity. Like there's
Right.
just no interest in that. And when we visit that church, and so we talk to that church and they're like, oh, yep, we're sending this, or we're doing this, or this is how we're supporting. And then when we're down there, like, oh, we're so glad to see you. Our sister parish never comes. They've forgotten us. We've been abandoned. And so we're in this really awkward situation of we don't want to rat either side out, but they believe they're sending, and like there's probably people in the community that are getting scholarships. but
So we don't have a
nobody else
connection with the
knows.
pastor there.
Oh, we do.
We do.
Yeah, but the problem is that they are not visiting. That's the main problem
That's the
because the
Yeah.
visiting is that build the community. And they don't see you. Oh, who are you? Oh,
Right.
thank you for visiting us.
And so do we just, how often does someone from here visit to, like, I don't want to be like policing it, but just where's the
Yeah.
human part of the scholarship program?
Maybe there could be a question of like, how does the scholarship, if you have a scholarship program,
Right.
how does it fit into the overall
Yeah.
relationship that you have as sibling churches or something?
Yeah. Because the people, you go to that church here and they have posters of here's the kids we're sponsoring.
Yeah, do they send big posts? They need to send like.
Yeah, I am like, you guys need to talk to each other because none of you believe us when we're the messengers. So we're just trying not to be messengers because then we're drama queens, but we're like, this is a really
Like
awkward
literally big
situation.
banners and posters
Yes.
are the next best thing to
Yeah.
visit. So
Yeah,
something that could hang.
we
in the
can take
front,
some down
like-
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Get the banner made in El Salvador. It's way cheaper for $20.
True.
A nice vinyl banner.
Well, at least it is not.
And it'll last for at
Price may go
least
up.
3 weeks in that climate in that church. Oh my goodness, with the humidity and the salt in the air.
Could the church here, like, would they be willing to maybe do like a Shutterfly book or something that you could take with you in
It was
August to
probably
deliver?
fall apart as soon as we got there. Like the climate is
Yeah, the climate's brutal.
really brutal there.
Vinyl.
And I also think that this is not some couple of other conversations I've had with people at other churches. This is not a unique situation in our synod.
Agree.
Mhm.
And so I think this needs to be part of it. If we're having an honest conversation,
Yeah.
about our scholarship program. I think we need to be honest that we have some churches
Was
that
it
are, it's just a like, it might as well be Compassion USA, or because it's just a line item where they send things and it's.
did it fall apart during COVID?
No.
Or was it before that?
That was probably just like an extra.
COVID ad.
Yeah, it added to it. But I think the last time someone visited was 2015.
By that,
Yeah. From that particular one
Wow.
that I'm speaking of.
Decade.
Yeah.
But again, I know from other conversations I've had since being in this position, there's at least 2 other churches that are in very similar situations. So because it's not an isolated thing.
Would it be a case of sort of like, if there's sporadic churches that haven't been to their parish partnership, we haven't been for a while either, I don't think. Because Barb has, when's the last time you were down, or?
Last time the group was 19.
2019.
2019. So we're, and I know Doug Deller, who's been there before too, he's been really busy with his, so, but like when we did the Tanzania delegation, the Meru thing, it was like, yeah, one person from here, one person from there, 2 people from there.
We've tried and
They don't
people
want to do
don't.
it. No. Okay.
And we have.
Is it I'm afraid to go, or is it I don't have the money to go, or?
We don't.
I
We
just
don't
know
know.
I'm
I
not
think
interested.
there's a lot of different, like I said,
There's a
it's
lot of
multiple
different
different churches and there's a lot of different reasons.
Flex within
Yeah.
each church. Yeah.
Got it.
But certainly transitions are difficult, so.
Yep.
And when you have these partnerships that are 30, almost 30 years old. You've seen the passing of like the enthusiastic founding team. And it's hard to generate enthusiasm in, subsequent leadership groups, so.
And people have limited time off of work. And so they don't want to use every vacation they have
to go on a mission,
to go on a sister parish visit and do all of
Very
those
true.
things. And so that's again where perhaps if we can get some sort of a program that encourages travel, maybe that would encourage someone who's on the fence to go. I don't know. And I don't know how to ask that question, but I think that needs to be part of our best practices conversation is.
When was your last visit?
When was
Just
your,
put
there
it
we
in.
go.
And frequency.
Oh, yeah. When was your last visit? And do you value visiting your sister parish as an important part of your scholarship program? Or is that too?
And is it just the scholarship program, or is it the partnership
Yeah.
in general?
I think if you ask when was your last visit, that'll communicate it for
Yeah.
you. And then maybe how frequently.
How often?
Yeah, I'd say how recently. or
Each
how
other,
often.
if you put each other.
Each other.
But also.
Some of these will
what
be
about
better because
extended-
they come here.
extended visits. I mean, that's how
Right.
Chris and I went the very
Yeah,
first
me
time,
too.
and that combined a group of people that kind of spread out to get
Well, I know the
involved
last
in the
couple of times you guys
partnerships.
have tried to offer one, there's not been.
So we
But you
have-
had the one that was a little, was that a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
That was pretty
That
successful.
bishop went, and wasn't there like
Yeah.
6 people that?
And that was
Yeah.
kind of a rep from here, rep from there.
Yeah,
But I would say it was generally, I don't want to say skewed older, but
Right.
it wasn't people that are kind of new leaders or scholarship
Right.
program leaders, or that wasn't the profile.
Yeah.
Right. It was more like, oh, I've heard about El Salvador for a long time and
I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna go.
And I'm retired now, and I have the
Yeah,
money now, and herein lies the problem with Tanzania too,
Yes.
is we're aging out. And
But I think also that some people, if they have an interest in going to, I'll say El Salvador, have done it,
right.
been there, done it, and maybe
The
they
bucket
don't,
list.
they
Yeah.
just don't have an interest to go again because they've
Mhm.
been there and now they're maybe involved, but
Yeah,
in providing funds for some of the things, but not coming again.
yeah.
what about a youth trip and defining youth like the Synod does with Synod whatever,
Well,
Edwin's been thinking 31 and
putting
younger
something
and
together.
I've been thinking in
Like a
doing
day term.
something like that, like some kind
Young
of
adult.
J term or young adult, you know. Yeah, the future, because there are resources,
But
places where
he
we.
had 4 trips to El Salvador this year, so this was not the
Not
year.
just yet.
Right.
But there are a lot of resources. I love one of the places that I don't know, but it's my first idea is Casa Esperanza. You know, it's I am doing, for example, here I am doing a lot of community service, cooking for homeless people here in Waukesha with the high school students. And then, Casa Esperanza in El Salvador, with college students. Come on,
I mean, that's what we do
uh-huh.
or have done. We haven't gone since 2020, but we have at least half usually our college students.
To do some kind of
But
that.
you're a unique group.
Yeah.
You're way different than a lot
But we
of
haven't done a
other
trip since
companies.
2020 though. I had a hard time getting anyone last year.
Yeah,
So
same. We marketed it twice, 2 different years, specifically designed for college students and young adults.
No.
Put it in and had leaders young leaders, who then had to back out because of life and ended up.
I like this idea of the scholarship.
The thing is, yeah, but it's not even just
It's not the money?
scholarship. In this church, it's really most of the time not the money.
Right.
It's the loss of the institutional memory of those trips.
Yes.
We used to go every January and high school kids would look forward to doing a trip that an older sibling had done.
Yeah.
And like that's gone.
You played off of the previous.
Yeah,
one,
that's
so-
I wonder if how much. I wonder how much fear there's also currently. You hear all this stuff about the El Salvador prisons. And
Yeah, I
has
talked to
that
someone
created a
yesterday,
fear?
And they flat out said, is it safe? And I said, it's safer now because no one has civil liberties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody, it's safer now because what?
It's the gangs
Because
are all
the
locked
civil
up.
liberties have been
Yeah.
taken away.
Yeah, it's so safe. I mean, we could put together an incredible, there are all these YouTube videos now about, with young travelers singing the praises of all the tourist sites and everything in El Salvador. So we can overcome the safety thing, I think, with the, surf and sun and volcanoes and, all these social media things by influencers. But, I think, one is, do you offer a trip that isn't about, let's go visit our partners in El Salvador, because people don't know what that means, as opposed to a trip of, let's go, build something. Now, that's not accompaniment. But it is a way to get a certain group of people interested, if they think they're gonna go, why is it that Habitat for Humanity international trips, get people to sign up? I'm going to, do something, and that appeals to
This is really great. Well, if we're serious about that, I mean, Chris Boulogne is very connected. Thrive and Builds, they'll pay for. I think it became, I don't want to say half of the trip, but they'll front a bunch of money to cover a whole bunch of things.
International too? 'Cause
Yeah,
they just went down to.
No, he would love to do an El Salvador trip.
I heard about that. I talked with him.
So if there were people that wanted to work with him, he would help you out. So.
Interesting. Yeah, we had in Tanzania, for a Tanzania trip, a parish partner trip, a church that had 8 or 9, 10 people signed up, and when they found out they weren't going to go down and actually have a paintbrush or a hammer in their hand, they went, no, we want to go. And the trip dropped down to like 3 people, 4 people. And, basically it's like, if we're going down there to do work or out there to do work, we're taking jobs away from other people. And man, El Salvador, so much easier. I haven't done it yet, but.
You haven't been in the heat yet.
But I'm talking about that flight to Tanzania is just, El Salvador's quick.
Yes.
And they have pupusas.
And they have
And they have
pupusas.
pupusas.
Now you can fly directly from Chicago.
Pupusarias.
Yes.
Everywhere.
No, Steven, the Chicago direct flight.
All right, well, I will
Okay.
play around with this list, see what we can do, and then we'll see if
Work your magic, Sarah.
our ChatGPT
Can
can.
I ask for my edification for Galilee? Because Galilee used to travel with North Cape. And since Pastor Brad Brown is no longer there, have they been?
Yes.
They've traveled.
North Cape has traveled, but they are not engaged with the committee.
They don't have a pastor yet. I don't think, do they? They have an interim.
I thought they had a new, but I'm not sure.
Because they're close to
Thought he's an
Monsignor.
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm not positive.
And they go fairly often, I believe.
They go
Every November.
Yeah.
every other one.
I was gonna say, they better find out about this law or they're gonna be in for a shock at the airport. Yeah, they take cases, like suitcases. Suitcases.
Like on school supplies, we just placed big orders online to Target for pickup.
You-
It says.
You can do that. We looked at actually doing that last time, Super Selectos. You can order everything online and have it ready for you. Because we were maybe gonna cook a meal in our church's kitchen for the teachers and the council. And we're like, we can see what they have at the grocery store and we can just do online order from here.
So we have 4 minutes left.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
That was a whip cracking.
So I will work on that. Next is other. So is there things that people wanted to bring up? Yes.
One thing. So we had talked, I don't know if it was at Synod Assembly, kind of just brainstorming, but to get new pastors engaged with our global partnership, both Tanzania and El Salvador, is to potentially put like a little basket, a welcome basket with our flyer in it, maybe a El Salvador cross, a Tanzania cross, maybe some Meru coffee, some chocolate if we had it. But pastor, or actually not pastor, but Steve Smart is getting ordained on July 12th at Christ the Servant in Waukesha. And it might be nice to, not pastors that are moving around the Synod, but like a new pastor.
Any partnerships?
What?
You're saying in general?
Just in general, we were saying it would be nice whenever there's a new pastor that our companion synods put a little welcome basket together.
Oh.
Let him know who we are. You're reading at that, aren't you? So you can present him with the basket.
I'm the official photographer.
There we go.
I was gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just thought that would be a nice thing that we thought when we were down there, if you guys want to, or you guys can pick some up, but we would pick up some small crosses that we could give as a welcome to new pastors.
And I can get a small cross, a Tanzanian cross from Emmanuel. And I think, I mean, if you've got any extras and whatever, we could put a little basket.
Just pastors.
Why not? What do you mean?
Do you like to extend it?
Any new staff members you're saying?
Yeah, staff members, I mean, like, in how many churches is the pastor the person who leases to the?
Yeah, we don't get like on Google
Well,
Group
I feel like that would be a harder thing
to track. Yeah.
How about we all keep our ear to the ground and if there's somebody new?
Like, are you talking about like an office staff person or?
Youth director.
Well, youth director, deacon.
I have a specific idea, but I don't know that,
that's worthwhile.
It doesn't feel like that, it's not necessarily gonna be effective.
We
Just
could,
targeting
from
pastors.
Bishop, we could get a list of maybe, kind of the recent arrivals.
This is an interesting question just in general for the Synod. We every year there's a new to the Synod luncheon.
Yes.
Oh.
And so
That's what I'm thinking.
it would be interesting, not, I mean, from our committees, but are there other committees as well?
Right.
All the committees, anti-racism and.
It'd be awesome. Welcome to our Synod basket. And yes, run with that.
They should do that.
Just because
We'll send them the idea. I'm not putting my name on that, by the way.
Pastor's not gonna be it, that's also
Right.
problematic. And that's an easy, from just a logistical standpoint of a team of volunteers, keeping track of who the new pastor is an easy piece
Mhm.
to monitor.
I think Emmanuel leaves tomorrow, so if we really want to
Alright.
get stuff, he should.
Well, I know I have a small, the big one, I have a small one.
Okay.
And I
Oh,
know
what?
Barb, I don't know if we could borrow another one from Galilee. She's got a basket full. And then if we put a Mount Meru, coffee in there and they might even,
A golden ticket.
golden ticket, yes. Yes, come to the first meeting, come to the meeting on October
An outreach
11th.
for a mug.
A what?
Mug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mug and pencil.
Oh, you
a
think
pen.
Outreach for Hope is gonna get involved in this?
Absolutely.
We're one of the committees, we're one of the groups of the Synod.
So do we table this instead of having something ready for Saturday? Maybe have a more cohesive approach for the new to the Synod.
Yeah, because we could also,
Maybe the installation day is a little bit too much.
chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
ordination. Oh, is he getting installed or?
Both.
Maybe both.
Oh, he's called there too?
Yep.
Oh,
Oh, well, no, he's not called a Christ servant.
No, it's not.
He's a,
Oh, Mark, okay.
but the ordination's happening. Yeah, so I guess he's not truly being installed yet, but although he's already begun.
But we should invite him to October 11th. I'd like to get all the I'd like to put an invitation out to all of our.
And Mount Carmel doesn't have a partnership with either.
Right, but that's okay. Come learn about us. Maybe. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
I mean, that's a whole conversation about best practices.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think that's something to get people excited about.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need like a newbie fun thing. Like,
Yes.
come to the newbie fun thing.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
like face painting and things like that.
Or
Balloon
or
tank.
or
dunk tank.
or a barbecue
Bishop
back
dunk
when I
tank.
get my patio done.
We're gonna have the Bishop dunk tank. We just all in favor.
Is that going in the meeting minutes?
Anything
Oops.
else? There's not really, it's just you're gonna have to do the AI minutes
That will come
today.
out of the minutes.
Yes.
When is this new to the Synod luncheon?
I don't know.
Usually.
It's once a
They
year.
just had,
It's been
Yeah,
about
so
2
that
months
gets-
since we had it.
See your plan.
Look at my photos, you'll be able to see.
Newbies.
was a new past.
Do 2 years worth.
Yes. And then we can get a number of how many newbies there typically are, so we know how much stuff we should
what we're
be.
talking.
Typically like 15 to 20.
So if we bring in 40 things, we're good for who just was new this past year and new for next year. Perfect. Do we need to meet in July or do we want to wait till August? I feel like July is a good month to take off.
The next wire transfer date is July 25th. I mean, we got like those new dates, right?
Yes.
So it didn't go in May, or did it?
Whatever the thing said, I don't remember.
One in April.
Oh. Did we get like a new schedule though?
Nope, there it is. So it went in April and it went in June, but the date that it's
These are the dates it's
Yeah,
due.
These are the due dates.
Yes.
These are the due dates, so it goes 2 weeks later. It actually hands.
Did it go in June?
Yeah,
Did
it
it not
did.
the same?
No, it did. It went in April and it went in June.
Okay.
That's what I said.
It is.
It is.
So it'll
I'm
go
like,
in August.
you're confusing everybody because we've been doing this for
Yeah.
years.
Got it.
But that's
Early August.
that was not a budging on that. So. But we now have an automated email that goes out to every church and all partners
Oh, that's cool.
that just says in a week the deadline is here. So tell your financial
Reminder.
people. I've had actually financial people say, "Can I get on that auto email?" Yeah, sure, I'll add you.
Do you have Galilee, finance at Galilee on there? For
I've got
Tanzania?
no, I don't remember. It's whoever's.
I will send you an email.
Galilee's office gets it, and anyone associated with.
Shoot forwards it then.
I mean, Meru gets one,
Yeah.
and El Salvador gets one.
Yeah.
So it's the same system. It's just
Yeah.
flipping. So probably the offices are getting it every month.
But that's good to know which one it is.
At least it just reminds you, oh, it's in a week. So.
Yep.
I feel like July, we could probably take off and then resume in August, and would your delegation and our delegation could each share some of maybe the ball.
How many people do you have going?
They're dropping like flies.
7 counting me and Tim.
So that brings us to August 18th. Do we have anyone that would like to host? Tim, we're not going to El Salvador
Hey,
as much as
Anna.
I'd like to.
Be happy to host down at the Synod office sometime if you ever wanted to come
Can
back.
all people's host on August, whatever we just said, what? 18th.
What day of the week?
Monday evening
Third Monday of.
at 6. I know St. Vincent would still be eating in there, but we'd be upstairs.
What day of the week?
Monday.
Do they have a TV for Zoom?
We could meet in the
Yeah,
sanctuary.
it also depends on how hot it is that day. We don't have air conditioning.
Look.
It's still in the summer.
A reality.
on, Tim.
We're El Salvador committee.
Come on.
We had a nice meeting there last week.
Pastor Chris was just there last week and he survived.
Okay.
And we have big,
I gave Shrey a sticky bun and got yelled at for it.
yes, you did.
But she
We
was
have
happy.
We have big honking fans.
So should we say tentatively at all peoples, and if that doesn't work out, Galilee on the 18th of August.
Okay.
So someone can just follow up with me.
Is there a Brewers game? No, just kidding.
Look, we always got to drive west.
I was there. When were we there last week? Whatever.
What?
Weren't we at all people? Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Last week.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
I
you
hit
were with
every
you.
single red light on Capitol and Fond du Lac.
I'm praying for no red lights for you this time.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else.
I know where the chocolate's stashed.
Pastor Ed, would you like to lead us in Padre Nuestro?
Oh, let me put it up.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's at the bottom of the agenda.
All right. Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino. Hágase tu voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Perdona nuestras ofensas, como también nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en la tentación y líbranos del mal, porque tuyo es el reino, el poder y la gloria, por los siglos de los siglos. Amén.
Amén y amén.
Thank you, everyone online.
Adios.
Bye.
Adios.
But now I know why.